Hello, everyone. My name is Brendan Bickford, and today I will be discussing modern bionic prosthetic hands and the risk of enhancing beyond the human hand. This is a presentation for my CMPT 105W class and the summer semester 2023 at Simon Fraser University. So the outline for this presentation is I will discuss the history of prosthetic hands, the capabilities of modern bionic prosthetic hands, the risks that are associated with overdevelopment of the hands, what transhumanism is, and the dangers of transhumanism, regulations for bionic prosthetic hands, and my conclusion for this presentation. So the history of prosthetic hands. So the first prosthetic hands were made of metal and wood, and they were intended to mimic the appearance of the hand, but had limited functionality beyond that. So the original hands would often be shaped in a hand shape or sometimes a hook for more functionality. But if it was a hand, they would often have a hole or a way to attach a tool or a weapon to the prosthetic to give a little bit of functionality to it. In 1812, dentist Peter Bailiff designed one of the first functional prosthetic hands capable of human-powered movement. What this means is the hand was able to open and close using movement from the body rather than involving manual adjustments of the prosthetic, which was previously required with other prosthetic hands. In 1948, the first bionic hand prototype was constructed, and it used batteries, electric motors, and thus made it portable. Additionally, the movements of the bionic hand were triggered by sensors on the skin that were able to detect movements in the forearm. These sensors were known as myoelectric sensors and have become refined and are still used on nearly every modern bionic prosthetic hand on the market. These sensors are placed on the surface of the skin and are able to detect electric signals sent to the muscles and thus trigger movement of the prosthetic using the existing muscles on the body. Modern bionic prosthetic hands. So current bionic prosthetics on the market are capable of around 140 newtons of force in their grip strength on average, and this is approximately half the average grip strength for a healthy adult hand, which is on the lower side 300 newtons up to the higher average of 500 newtons. Additionally, with the grip strength, certain companies are boasting a next generation of hands having 300 newtons of grip strength as early as next year. So the new hands are capable of movements and gestures, allowing the users to regain the majority of their function that their hand has been lost, and even some touch feedback. Using these sensors on the skin, they can send electric currents to those sensors, producing a sensation in the muscles, giving the user some touch feedback back. Modern prosthetic hands allow the wearer to integrate into society and have a positive impact on their psychological well-being, and the wearers are empowered to live their lives to the fullest despite their loss. So it allows them to do things that they would not have been capable of without the prosthetic hands. So most of the capabilities allow them to do pretty much anything nowadays that a normal hand would be capable of. The risks of continued development. So as bionic prosthetic hands begin to meet the performance of a healthy human hand, there is a risk that the technology will begin to surpass it. This is natural because once the prosthetic matches the human hand, any continued development by nature would be improving beyond that of the normal human hand. So if development goes unregulated, it will begin to enhance the technology beyond what is possible. So this would include a far greater grip strength, faster movement speeds, and unhuman articulation of the hand might continue in the development. And if the development goes too far, this can lead to the promotion of transhumanism, which could be potentially dangerous. And we'll discuss that next. But what is transhumanism? So it's the belief that that humans should advance past its limitations through the use of technology. Now, by changing and enhancing the human form, this will make it so humans are able to move towards a more superhuman capabilities and have a prolonged life. This perfectly describes the enhancement. This describes what would happen if the enhancement of these bionic hands continues, in that it would meet this description of passing the limitations natural to humans and moving towards superhuman capabilities. Now, what are some dangers of transhumanism? So once bionic hands are capable of outperforming human hands, it is conceivable that some people would prefer to have them even if they have working biological hands. For instance, if the hands become 3 or 4 times stronger than human hands and are crush resistance, faster response times, can articulate more flexibly, it is conceivable that some people might prefer that over to their own hands, especially if you're in a high fatigue job. You might prefer a bionic hand that doesn't get sore. If you have arthritis in your hand, you might prefer a bionic hand that is capable of moving forever without you feeling pain from that. Once it is possible to purchase these, anyone who could afford the prosthetic would be able to pay for them and pay for the surgeries to be able to wear them, given they have enough money. This advantage for the wealthy would create a divide between those who could afford the prosthetics and those who could not. A divide between those capable of doing these special movements with their hands, special capabilities, and those who could not. And additionally, companies might prefer workers with these prosthetics, which might put pressure on people to replace their hands. For instance, in manufacturing jobs, if the prosthetic hands move a lot faster, companies might prefer hiring employees that have the prosthetics. Now, this wouldn't necessarily mean the companies are forcing people to change out their hands, but if their opportunities are more so for people with prosthetic hands, it might put pressure on some workers to make the transition to prosthetic hands. Now, it's important that we start regulating these bionic hands, because the best way to avoid the risk of transhumanism is to regulate the functionality of the bionic prosthetic hands so they cannot exceed that of a healthy biological hand. As we are quickly approaching the stage where bionic prosthetic hands meet the performance of human hands, it is crucial that we begin regulations as soon as possible. Now, this is incredibly important because the regulation process takes such a long time in government. So it is important that we start now as we are quickly approaching the point where these prosthetics are reaching human capabilities. So for my conclusion, it would be unethical to limit the progress of bionic prosthetic hand development before they meet the capabilities of human hands. This is because the devices are so important to the lives of amputees in order to bring back their quality of life, their mental well-being, and incorporate them seamlessly into society without feeling like an outcast for having a non-functional hand. However, it is a serious risk of promoting transhumanism if they are being enhanced beyond the human hand. By establishing firm limitations such that prosthetics are allowed to match the functionality of the hand, but not exceed it, will allow for maximum rehabilitation for amputees while limiting the risk for transhumanism. So it's incredibly important because we don't want to stop progress before it matches the human hand, because the amputees have every right to have that functionality that they have lost. So that was my presentation. Thank you very much for listening. And does anyone have any questions for me? Thank you very much for watching.